The sky over Carvelis never truly slept. Even at dusk, the clouds glowed faintly with bioluminescent charge, vast bruised layers of violet and copper rolling across one another like the slow breathing of some colossal animal. Wind combed the tall crystal grass of the plateau, each blade chiming softly as it bent, the sound traveling in waves across the open training fields of the Violati huntresses. They called this place sacred ground. They called it a proving field. They called it where the weak learned their place. The human stood alone at its center. He looked wrong here. Too soft, too narrow in the shoulders. His armor, if it could be called that, was patched composite and old alloy, scarred not with ritual etchings, but with repair welds and burn marks. His boots were caked with red dust from a dozen worlds, the kind of dust that never really washed away, that lived in the seams of fabric and memory alike. His name was Elias Wren, and right now, every eye was on him for all the wrong reasons. She leaned against a spear taller than he was, her posture loose, predatory, utterly unconcerned. Her skin carried the deep indigo sheen of her species, patterned with faint silver tracer lines that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her eyes, too large, too reflective, tracked him like prey, even as her mouth curved into something dangerously close to amusement. Sarai of the Third Clutch laughed. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. A ripple of shared derision moved through the circle of huntresses gathered along the edge of the field. These were apex predators of a world that devoured the careless. Bone-plated armor hugged powerful frames. Quivers bristled with arrows tipped in monomolecular edges and venom sacs refined over generations. They had hunted storm beasts in hurricane winds. They had tracked prey across molten plains. They had never once feared a human. "Is this the one the council sent?" Sarai asked, her voice carrying effortlessly through the wind. "This is the asset we're meant to test?" Elias did not respond. He stood with his hands relaxed at his sides, head slightly bowed, eyes half-lidded. To the huntresses, it looked like resignation, or worse, confusion. Sarai stepped closer, boots crunching against crystal grass. She circled him slowly, deliberately invading his space, her elongated shadow sliding over his armor. "So small," she murmured, close enough now that he could smell the faint, metallic tang of her blood-scent glands. "Your muscles barely twitch. Your stance is wrong. You don't even anchor your weight to the ground." She stopped directly in front of him. Their faces were inches apart, human skin pale and scar-lined, alien features sharp and luminous. Her lips parted in a grin that showed too many teeth. "If you were prey," she said softly, "you would already be dead." A few huntresses chuckled. Elias inhaled. The sound was almost lost beneath the wind. Inside his chest, his heart slowed, not from fear, but from habit. He had learned long ago that panic wasted energy, that adrenaline was a currency best spent only when necessary. He had learned this on worlds where no one laughed, on ships where oxygen failed without warning, on battlefields where human bodies broke faster than alien ones. "Are you finished?" he asked quietly. Sarai blinked, not because of the words, but because of the tone. There was no defensiveness in it, no anger, no pleading. It was the voice of someone already past the point of needing approval. Her grin sharpened. "Very well, human. Let us begin." She raised one hand. 12 huntresses stepped forward in unison, spreading into a wide arc around Elias. Their movements were fluid, synchronized, honed by centuries of cultural obsession with the hunt. Each knocked an arrow, bow limbs flexing with lethal promise. Sarai remained directly in front of him. "You will not move," she said. "You will not run. You will not raise your hands." She tilted her head. You may try to survive. The wind shifted. Elias closed his eyes. The laughter came then, sharp, incredulous, unrestrained. He's blindfolding himself, one huntress scoffed. Mercy kill, another offered. Sarai did not laugh. Something in her instincts, old, deeply buried, had gone still. Her hand dropped. The bows sang. 12 arrows launched at once, not in a simple volley, but in a staggered pattern designed to eliminate evasive movement. Some came high, some low, some curved subtly mid-flight under guidance fields. A net of death, perfected across generations. Time stretched. Elias exhaled, and the world changed. To Elias, sound arrived before motion. The whisper of arrowheads slicing charged air, the shifting pressure waves of bowstrings releasing, the micro-vibrations in the ground as huntresses adjusted their footing. He did not see the arrows. He felt them. His nervous system, augmented, rewritten, listening, translated reality into probability. Not prediction, not precognition, pattern recognition at the speed of thought. His body moved, not fast, efficient, a step sideways, perfectly timed, a lean that let an arrow pass close enough to part the air against his cheek, a twist of the shoulder that caused another to glance harmlessly off his armor plating. 2 arrows shattered against each other where he had not been a moment before. He ducked, low, controlled, rolling as 3 more passed overhead, their guidance systems failing to compensate for his non-standard movement. He rose into the space between them. Another breath, a spin. An arrow brushed his hair. The last projectile struck the ground behind him, embedding itself deep into crystal soil. Silence fell like a dropped weapon. Elias opened his eyes. 12 huntresses stared at him, frozen in disbelief, bows half lowered. Sarai's spear slipped from her grasp and struck the ground with a hollow chime. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Elias looked directly at Sarai. "You were right," he said calmly. "If I were prey, I'd be dead." His gaze hardened. Not cruel, not triumphant, just unbearably tired. "But I stopped being prey a long time ago." They took him inside after that. Not with chains, not with ceremony, with caution. The outpost carved into the plateau's edge had once been a Vailati stronghold. Now it was a hybrid structure. Alien architecture fused with human modular systems, corridors illuminated by soft amber light, walls humming with barely contained power. Elias walked alone through its halls. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind the familiar ache in his joints, the subtle tremor in his left hand he could never quite eliminate. His augmentations compensated, smoothing over the damage time had done. But they could not erase memory. Every step echoed. Isolation clung to him like dust. He had outlived his unit. He had outlived his planet. He had outlived the version of humanity that had built him. Sarai watched him from a distance as he passed through the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a circular holographic table projecting star maps that flickered with outdated data. "Who trained you?" she asked at last. Elias stopped. "For most of it?" He considered. "No one." She frowned. "Impossible." "Unlikely," he corrected. "Not impossible." She stepped closer, her earlier arrogance stripped away, replaced by something sharper. Respect, perhaps, or fear. "You move like someone who has already died," she said quietly. Elias met her gaze. "I have," he replied. The anomaly came 3 cycles later, a signal buried beneath the outpost's normal sensor noise, a low-frequency pulse that didn't belong to any known Vailati system. It came from beneath the plateau, from depths no huntress patrol had ever explored. Old, human. Elias felt it before the alarm sounded, a pressure behind the eyes, a resonance in his implants that set his teeth on edge. Sarai found him in the armory, fingers tracing the edge of a human data slate he hadn't realized he was holding. "You know this signal," she said. "Yes," he answered. Her voice lowered. "What is it?" He swallowed. "A ghost." The descent into the lower levels stripped away pretense. Here the walls were older, the air colder. Human technology, ancient by modern standards, lined the corridors, coated in dust and neglect. Faded insignias marked doors that had not opened in centuries. Elias's footsteps slowed. Memory pressed in. He remembered this place, or one like it. Outposts built in desperation when humanity still believed survival could be engineered. When they believed adaptation was enough. Sarai walked beside him now, her earlier mockery replaced by a careful silence. "What did your kind do here?" she asked. Elias stopped before a sealed door. "We tried not to die," he said. The door recognized his implants. It opened. Inside waited a chamber frozen in time. Cryopods lined the walls. Human shapes within, faces pale and unmoving. Consoles flickered weakly, still clinging to power drawn from deep geothermal taps. At the center stood a single figure, not asleep, awake, eyes glowing with cold blue light. "Welcome back," the figure said, voice layered, synthetic and human intertwined. "Elias Wren. You are late." Sarai's hand went to her weapon. Elias felt something inside him fracture. "What did we become?" he whispered. They talked for hours, about extinction, about adaptation, about the line between survival and surrender. The being called itself continuance, a gestalt intelligence formed from the last willing human minds, evolved beyond flesh, bound to machines and purpose. "We endured," it said. "We changed. We became what was necessary." Sarai listened, horrified and fascinated. "You abandoned your bodies," she said. Continuance regarded her. "You sharpened yours into weapons. Is that so different?" Elias stood between them, the weight of choice pressing down on him. Continuance offered him ascension, connection, an end to loneliness. Sarai offered him something else, imperfect, dangerous, alive. "You don't belong to ghosts," she said quietly. "You belong here." Elias closed his eyes. He remembered the arrows, the laughter, the moment he chose to move instead of break. "I choose change," he said, "but not erasure." The transformation hurt. Light burned through his nervous system as continuance rewrote his implants, severing some pathways, opening others. He screamed and survived. When it was done, the cryopods went dark. The ghosts rested. Weeks later, ships appeared in orbit. Human signals. Velati escorts. The universe, it seemed, was not finished with him yet. Elias stood once more on the training field, Sarai at his side. She no longer laughed at his stillness. She watched his eyes when he closed them. "What will you do now?" she asked. He looked up at the endless sky. "Teach," he said. "Protect. Remind the universe that humans don't disappear quietly." Sarai smiled, not in mockery, but in fierce understanding. Somewhere far above, the stars shifted. And for the first time in a long while, Elias Wren did not feel alone. Not entirely.